He's here just the same because we've veered into something else, and the good Father has decided, all right, Neil, I'll roll with this. So, Father, very good to have you.
It's good to be here.
You know, we're talking about how horrific this could have been.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you saw that scene with the mom with her son.
Yes.
Just very relieved that he's all right, and that was far from the case a year ago tomorrow when many parents found out that their child was not.
Right.
How do you guide people through that?
Well, I think the first thing you do is listen to people. I think when somebody's gone through a trauma, they need to kind of slow it down and look at it. So the first thing you do when you're dealing with somebody who's been through something this traumatic is you listen and ask more questions and get out all of the experience. Then they may go over it 2 or 3 times, and a little symbol of reassurance, a pat on the hand or a hug, let people cry. That's the first stage of the whole thing. And then it takes longer. I mean, I'm sure these families are going to really reflect very deeply on their relationships with each other. That mom was very upset, and I'm sure they're going to hug each other a little more closely tonight.
I'm wondering too, Father, about all those Sandy Hook families. And how they're feeling the day before their anniversary. A year ago today, those little children were alive.
Yeah.
What do you say to them?
You look into the mystery of life and love and hope. I think this is where our faith comes in, that this is happening so close to Christmas can have a benefit for families who can look to spirituality, to God, for comfort and hope.
What about people who get angry and resent God? Say, God, how did you let this happen?
Well, I think, I think God can take our anger. I think we do need
But what do you tell them? How do you explain to them, God let these children die a year ago, or he almost let it happen again? What do you say?
Well, the thing I say is when I have to speak as a Christian because it's what I know best, it's what I've experienced, and that when we look at the cross, we see one who suffers for us, and we see 2 people on either side, the thieves on either side. One has the rejection of him and taunts Christ and says, get us down from this cross. And the other one just looks into the mystery and said, look, remember me when you come into your kingdom. I think that's humanity. I think those are the 2 responses to grief, to the mystery of evil.
But evil does seem to be everywhere, right? I mean, I know that sounds trite, but the case of this guy who wanted to blow up the Wichita airport and, on the heels of terrorists who've wanted to do the same here and abroad, a student, for whatever reason, who has it in him to want to kill, presumably, the librarian at his school.
Right.
Why? How do you explain that, just the rampant presence of evil?
We're scarred. Humanity is scarred. And I think the thing that's so jarring to us is we see our potential greatness, and then we see these great flaws that run through almost our character. And at least what Christmas tells us is that that's precisely the reason Christ comes into the world, to eradicate it fully and finally at the end of time in the second coming, but to eradicate the stain of original sin that exists in our nature.
But in the meantime, to hug a little more, right?
Hug a little more, pray a little more, listen a little more.
Good words of advice, Father. Regardless of your religious denomination.
Right.
Could have been a lot worse. More after this.